Hello everybody and welcome back to 10 Minute Reviews, where you'll never guess we do reviews. In 10 minutes or less-ish, we'll do our best. We primarily focus on books and authors. It's our biggest passion. The amount we read most people don't think is even possible. It's just pretty much what we do. I'm Jason, this is my wife Amy. She's not mic'd up today, she's not feeling very well. But she wanted to be here to offer emotional support. She's my emotional support wife. And she wants to lurk, so it's my wife Lurk. And as we've mentioned in the past, we don't focus on the big name authors. No George R. Martins, no Stephen Kings, the authors people have already heard of. We usually try and go for lesser known authors, maybe indie authors like the ones that are free on Amazon and other places, on Patreon, things along those lines. Because we're not looking for the high literature, we're looking for just entertainment, the fun books. This time around, it's going to be a fairly well-known author within a certain genre and within a certain age range. I'm bringing him up because it is older, but it is very much a seminal series of books, right? And I'm talking about the Dragonlance Chronicles by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. This was written in the 80s, and it is in a lot of ways it's the gateway series to fantasy, kind of. It was written under the TSR banner back in the day, and it was their first really big hit. The Dragonlance ended up becoming an offshoot world in the Dungeons and Dragons game at the time, and in fact, I have that book. And it was almost a lot of people look at the Dragonlance Chronicles even more than Lord of the Rings as far as the idea of building the party and the perfect party of your fighter, your wizard, your thief, your cleric, your barbarian, so on and so forth. And that's because that's what the Dragonlance Chronicles had. They had the dwarf brawler, they had the half elf, half human fighter. He was almost more of a ranger type. But then they had the barbarian brother sister that was cleric and more of a ranger type. You had Carmen the fighter, Rasslin the wizard. You had Tasselhoff Burfoot the Kender thief.
Fun fact: I have a friend whose brother is named Rasslin after that character.
That'd actually be a good name to use. Although even though he did turn out to be evil. But so the Dragonlance Chronicles, they were huge. There were three of them: Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Dragons of Winter Night, and Dragons of Spring Dawning. They did eventually write a fourth, Dragons of Summer something. I can't remember, but it was well after the fact, and the trilogy was closed. They ended the trilogy. They did end up with sequel trilogies focusing on, say, Rasslin or Carmen, or on Tasselhoff Burfoot, whom every Kender says was their uncle. You know, my Uncle Tass. And even on Kitiara and on the Night Sturm, prequel series based on all of them. But it was the core trilogy, the first trilogy, that was really the foundation of really all of those Dragonlance and all of those Forgotten Realms books. If you guys have read R.A. Salvatore, he wouldn't exist if he would exist, but his series, his big characters and big series wouldn't exist if Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman hadn't launched the Dragonlance world. When they launched the Dragonlance Chronicles and launched that world, it spawned dozens and dozens of books, and then the Forgotten Realms came right on its heels and really took off, actually more successfully. But the Dragonlance Chronicles, absolutely, they paved the way, and it's a perfect teen reading if you have children that you want to get them involved into or interested into the fantasy and that kind of genre. But it's by no means a YA fix or anything like that. Plenty of adults read the series when it came out as well. It's just a fantastic. You weren't even born when the series came out. Oh. It's just a fantastic series.
Were you?
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's like the gateway. And one day we will do a top 10 list, like top 10 fantasy series, top 10 fantasy authors, things along those lines. And the Dragonlance trilogy is absolutely going to land on that top 10. There's almost no way it doesn't. If there was a hall of fame for the fantasy genre and books and authors, Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman would be in that hall of fame. They might even be founding members, first 5 members, because obviously J.R. Tolkien would be in there, possibly people like Michael Moorcock, but and his brother Michael Lescock. But Margaret Weis, Tracy Hickman, Dragonlance Chronicles, absolutely incredible. You guys gotta check it out. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Drop us a comment if you have any books you'd like us to check out. Spoilers are coming ahead, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers but want to actually read the series, then go ahead and turn this video off after you hit those like and subscribe buttons, and go check out the books. Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman wrote a lot afterwards, but this was their greatest. Absolutely. Even their other series afterwards, they were good and I read them all, but this is still hands down their best. So, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Dragons of Winter Dawning, and Dragons of Winter Night, and Dragons of Spring Dawning. They're all based around the Dragonlance world and how the Dragon Lords basically are kind of taking over the world in a way. I mean, you could almost look at them as the Empire, and Tanis and his friends as the Rebellion in a way. They're really just a group of friends getting together, but there just ends up they just kind of, like any good fantasy novel, just kind of keep stumbling into the crap. And they meet up for their annual meetup at this inn, end up getting attacked. End up, of course, managing to escape. Rasslin is their neutral red robe wizard, relatively weak, but got sickly, whereas his brother is this hulking beast of a fighter, but kindly, while Rasslin's always got very questionable motives. Tanis the half-elf, basically outcast from both races and societies. You've got the dwarf, except he's not the badass with swords, but
shunned by both.
That's probably Rasslin more. Rasslin gets shunned by everybody. And then once they don't really talk about, like Kitiara doesn't appear in this the meetup. Sturm, the knight, does, and the barbarian brother sister don't end up appearing until later on in the series, but it basically revolves around their attempt to, as a party, as a group, to find the mythical Dragonlances that can kill the dragons, because only the evil dragons, the chromatic dragons, are around. They're looking for the Dragonlances to try and be able to defeat the evil dragons, restore the metallic dragons. The good dragons are the metallic dragons.
The bronze, the silver.
Right. And bring back the good gods that have been missing, who are represented by their constellations. But in this case, if the constellation is there, the god is there. The constellation will actually disappear if the god disappears. So it kind of says something about the stars, and that's the entire plot line. Really, it turns out Kitiara ends up being a dragon rider. She ends up on the side of the bad guys, and Rasslin ends up becoming a black robe, which are the evil wizards. And although he gains more power, and then again they get the brother sister barbarian and barbarian cleric, although more shaman than cleric. And, of course, Tasselhoff, Burfoot, their Kender kleptomaniac rogue that ends up being a big part of pretty much all of it. And the wizard Fizzband that they come across throughout the books that turns out to eventually be the god Paladine, which is also happens to be the god of the Palladium Dragons, or the Platinum Dragons. Because he is, of course, a platinum dragon himself, just a god level one. And of course, they end up getting the Dragonlances, and then the metallic dragons show back up for the final fight, and some survive, some die, some turn evil, some evil turn good, little bit of everything. And it really ends. They end the trilogy well. Everybody's arc, for the most part, is complete, and you know what happened. There's no questions left, just potentials, which then ended up leading into the Rasslin trilogy that was fantastic. That also introduced some fantastic characters. Dalamar was always my favorite character in all of the books. The dark elf evil wizard that's not as evil as he could be, although neither is Rasslin, because he did save the world at one point. Of course, he does try and take it over later, but he saved the world at one point.
If you don't save the world, you have nothing to
take
over.
You have to save the world, because all your stuff is there. You can't let someone else destroy it. So, thank you everybody for watching. And please hit those like and subscribe buttons. Comment if you got any books you want us to read or just want to chat about the books. We are more than willing. Otherwise, bye now.
Bye.